Hi, Mark Miller here in New York, Mark Anderson in Boston, and Dave Coleman in the back end somewhere out in the boondocks of the UK. And we're here to talk about a little follow-up to the keynote that Mark and I gave at SP TechCon last week. One of the things that we wanted to talk about in general was how interfaces are changing and how we need to start thinking outside of the idea of SharePoint as this restricted platform. So what we did is had Mark create a solution that builds a social media dashboard right into the SharePoint interface. And so what I wanted to do was to demo that real quick, have Mark talk through it, walk through it. He's got an article already put up that shows you what he has done. We're going to talk through quickly how to do it today so that you can run over, copy and paste the code from his article, and then get your own setup going that way. So without much further ado here, Mark, I'm going to make you the organizer here or the presenter, and that way you can show your screen.
Excellent.
Am I sure I want to make Mark the presenter? Yes, I do.
It's always a question, isn't it? And I'm going to show that screen. How's that look?
I haven't seen it yet. Dave, are you in on this? Can you see what he's doing?
I am. That looks very much like TweetDeck.
Does it?
No.
Hoot sweet.
Good. Oh, and you probably want there. Okay.
There we go.
So this is. Should I just jump in, Mark?
Yeah, go for it. Go.
All right, great. So at SP TechCon we had two screens up. One was the one on the left side of the room and one on the right side. The one on the right side had Mark's slides that he was just paging through a little bit, and the one on the left had this screen that you see now. And every once in a while, maybe if we're lucky, one or two more tweets will show up as we're looking at this, but no one really knew what this screen was, and that was part of the fun. So while this screen was up, what we see is some Twitter columns here. These are widgets from Twitter, and then we see the SP Yammer feed. These are all just live streams coming from those services, and I can show you how they work. You can see we have the number 20 up here at the top of each column. When a new tweet comes in, that number turns yellow and bumps up. So we're keeping sort of a live count of how many tweets there are. There's some sort of lag here, so if you all madly go and try and bump your tweets to the top of this, it won't happen too fast. So we have three tweet streams. One's EUSP, one's in the middle is SP TechCon, and then on the right is SharePoint. Made sense at the time, and that's what was going on. We also have a couple other things going on in the page. We have this little help, sort of a help system that we have from a service called Hey Bubble, and you can type a message here, and it actually comes up on a little dashboard that Hey Bubble provides, so you can make a very interactive page. I think I just heard somebody else typing something into Hey Bubble. And then we have a couple other things going on in the page. Sorry, I'm going to hit my F11 key so I can actually see. There we go. There's my message. We have a couple other things going on that are sort of cool. There's a service from an outfit called Leap HQ called Leap Messages, and we built this into the page. And the idea here is that you can send an SMS message by just simply adding an item to a list in your SharePoint form. So what I did was I added an SMS link to each of the tweets. You can see it shows up everywhere, which when I click just asks me for a phone number. I'm not going to phone myself. There's the text of the tweet. The example I had in my blog post was maybe you work for Burger King and you realize that somebody has just hacked your Twitter account and you want to let the executives know. That's more of an SMS kind of thing than it is a tweet kind of thing. You notice I have a counter here for how many characters I have, 160 characters for SMS messages. just some fun little gizmos here. I send the message, and that lands in, by using SP services, lands in this list in the site. Leap Messages comes and scoops that out, and in a few minutes I would get an SMS message on my phone if I
Mark,
had my own number. Yep.
Bjorn is already stirring the pot here for us. What is the purpose of doing this in SharePoint rather than in a regular HTML page?
Well, that's a fair question. There are a couple things that we could do that we didn't bother with for this demo. This was just a quick thing to show some of the points that you wanted to make around your presentation, which we're not going through this time. But everybody could see a different version of this page based on who they are as they're logged in. So we already understand who the user is. We can have special information about which columns they want to see on this page stored in lists. We can store their configuration. So just taking advantage of identity management inside of SharePoint would be a huge benefit. Everybody would see this page as they want it.
The next question is, how long did it take you to put this together?
I don't know. I think, Mark, you and I went back and forth on it probably over the course of about a week. I may have spent a day on it, something like that altogether. I mean, probably the hardest part was just understanding what's the best way to get things like tweets in a column onto this page. What's the easiest way to do it? I didn't write against the Twitter API. I used their widgets, which you can set up yourself on the Twitter page under your settings. It's here. So it was a little bit of hocus pocus as opposed to this doesn't count as an enterprise level kind of application yet, but it could easily be made into one. Other questions or?
Jeremy had an interesting comment when you put your article out, and he said, that's Jeremy Thick, said, yep. Well, it looks like you did nothing more than cut and paste 4 sets of embed codes.
Yep. Well, I did do that, and that part of it's not all that special, except that I did figure out what the embed codes are, and I got them in the page the right way and stuff, which did take a little bit of thinking, not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
One of the goals was to have this magic button that you had asked for, and I'll click that in a second. But the integration with Leap Messages I think is sort of cool. We also have this chat thing, which I admit is also an embed code. But what we were trying to show, I think, is that we can build stuff in SharePoint that doesn't have to look like SharePoint, doesn't have to act like SharePoint, that can provide some really cool functionality. And so by fiddling around with things the way we did, there's a bunch of stuff under the covers that you can't really see from this. Like managing this little form and making sure that the counters are right and all that sort of stuff. There's nothing in here that's going to knock anybody's socks off, but I think when you put it all together, it's pretty slick.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea, the purpose of this was to say, let's stop thinking about SharePoint. Think about...
There's a new tweet.
Oh, Shereng, they got us one in there. Nice. Let's stop thinking about SharePoint. Let's stop talking about SharePoint. Let's talk about what are we trying to accomplish as the business objective, and if it was to build a dashboard, what would we want in a dashboard? And it had nothing to do with SharePoint, which I think is Bjorn's question is at the core of it, is why would we do this in SharePoint? It's because we're trying as companies to utilize SharePoint as our interface into all of our data at the company, and we're going to start considering this corporate data access.
Right. And I think, I will click the magic button, and everybody in the audience at SP TechCon actually didn't say ooh or ah. I was a little disappointed. But, the point is that this is a SharePoint page, right? All I did was just hide a bunch of stuff around the edge, the Chrome, so that it didn't look like SharePoint. And we could be showing this exact same componentry in the context of any other SharePoint page too. We don't have to have it be as immersive as we made it for the demo. We could be showing a tweet stream on a team site. We could be showing an SPM conversation. This isn't using the Yammer web parts that they supply. It's just one of their little embed codes. So it was really easy to get this stuff into the page and start making a SharePoint site or a SharePoint page feel much more social without doing a lot of heavy lifting.
Can I ask a question, Mark?
Yep.
This is obviously a SharePoint 2010. Have you tried it on 2013? And I'm assuming, since it's a lot of embed codes, it would be simpler to get in because the embed thing in 2013 or Office 365?
I haven't, but you could drop all of the same stuff into a 2013 page. I mean, what I basically did, again, it's a demo, so I just opened up a default.aspx page, hacked it in SharePoint Designer, and added the stuff I wanted. So there's no reason that you couldn't do this in 2013 as well.
And 365.
And 365. I actually built this on my 365 instance. I've moved it over to nothing but SharePoint for this demo so that everybody could have access to it if they want to get actual direct access to the files and such.
Yeah, I must remember to call it 365 for now rather than 365.
So I guess the other thing we could do is sort of jump over and show you how this is all built. And again, I'm not claiming rocket science here, but when you build a bunch of little things together that are useful, it starts to turn into something. So this is the actual page. I took a copy of default.aspx and gave it a nice name. I'm just giving you a taste of what SharePoint Designer 2013 feels like. There's no design view here. We're just looking at code because everybody always just uses the code view, right? Ah, that was some sarcasm. So here's the split view. You can see that I just have, which you can't do in SharePoint Designer 2013. So here I have some content editor web parts, and I'm just pointing to some files that have things like this embed, this markup and script for the search for EUSP on Twitter. So no magic there really. And I've just sort of created a nicer layout for the page in general. I've got a little form down here that I'm using for that dialogue that I've built with my script, and that's all just contained in the page. I've got a JavaScript file that gives there's a bunch of jQuery and JavaScript in here, and it gives it just some of the nicer behavior that we see on the page. There's not a lot of script, but it does some nice things like let's see, counting the tweets is here. So it just goes through that stream that Twitter generates for me, counts all of the tweet containers, and just keeps that counter up to date and flashes it if there's something new. So we get a little cue that something's happened. A little bit of CSS, but not a lot, because I really just stuck this thing into SharePoint and didn't do much with SharePoint around it. And those are all the main pieces. So, like I said, there's not a lot to it, but
we've got a question. That's okay. There's a question that Steve has. He wants to know if you can show how you did the count and the coloring.
Sure. So I'm using jQuery UI as one of my little helper libraries here. There goes the counter. I just refreshed the page. So jQuery UI is what's making this look nice, but I'm actually doing it in my own script. So let me show you how that works. The way that tweet stream looks, it actually embeds itself into an iframe. So this count tweets function is what does the work here. So I find the iframe that has an iTwitter widget, and for each one of those I do this count logic. Okay, within that iframe, the Twitter stream has a nice ID. I'm sorry, every tweet has a class of tweet, which is nice and obvious once I figured it out. And then I check the tweet counter to see what the previous value was. If it's not there yet, then I add it to the page and set a timer so that I can check it every, I think I'm checking it every 10 seconds. Otherwise, I just update the counter. the counter doesn't match the previous number, so every 10 seconds, if it notices that it's just changed the number, it just applies this UI state highlight to it. That's one of the jQuery UI classes. And then after, let's see, actually after 10 seconds, it takes that out. Sorry, I'm checking every 3 seconds for the new tweets, and then that yellow band at the top stays there for 10 seconds. That's really all there is to that. So, just on a timer basis, check and see if there are any new tweets. If there are, check the counter, update the counter, set the class to it, so give it a little bit of a highlight, and let that highlight time out after 10 seconds. Hopefully that hit the question.
Yeah, cool. All right, so if we go back to the interface then, one of the things that we could do to spiff this up a little more, right, it'd be very easy if you wanted to really emulate TweetDeck. First you'd have to crash every 5 minutes, but we'll get beyond that.
I could do that.
It never crashes for me. It's a perfect product.
We have the technology to make that happen.
We have the technology to make that happen. You could put your black background in there. There's nothing that would stop us from using Christoph Humbert's tabbed interface, so that these could actually be different tabs that you could be moving back and forth in.
Sure. And actually, I was hoping I would have time, and I just ran out of time to make these drag and drop, because what we could do is sort of supply people with this canned version of this, and let them drag things around and drop them into places where they want. Also give them maybe a little menu of predetermined streams, because in theory we're going to be using this in the context of some sort of business, or some sort of serious use case, as opposed to just following our friends. Some sort of set of streams that they could choose to add in whatever order they'd like on this page. I even thought about the fact that if somebody new joins the team, we could sort of provide them with the team page, the default team page.
Very nice.
Which the team manager could, or the project manager or whoever could set up. Let them customize it from there. So you'd sort of have templated social pages, and if you think about it that way, one maybe for each team site, or for each community of practice, or for each you can think of many use cases for that, I'm sure.
Well, Mark, I think I'd like to take that out now. As far as there's a chat room on the right-hand side of the WebEx interface, or the GoToMeeting interface. Mm-hmm. Could I get some input from the people that are listening in the chat, not on the question one, but in the chat interface? Let us know, what other panels would you like to see in here? If we could actually add some panels to build out a really nice media dashboard like this, what would you like to see? Dave, I'm going to throw that out to you while people are typing right now. Is there anything in here you look and say, man, if I could have this thing in here, it would be great?
It's a great question. I mean, my general communication tools are wide and varied, like your own. Twitter, obviously. Yammer, not so much yet, but it takes me a while to get stuff. Facebook I use a lot. For business and for personal as well. So if Facebook was in there as well, that would be great. LinkedIn, that would be good. Basically, all the functions that they're going to dispose of with the death of TweetDeck version 0.38.2, the one and only. Just about anything you can do in TweetDeck. If you could do it in a dashboard, be it SharePoint or whatever, I think that'd be awesome, because that's what I do.
Yeah, I also thought that Mark had a novel idea with having the counters at the top of each of those columns, because it proves that you could actually build a fully dynamic KPI system in here that exposes, if you were measuring what the comments about your competitors' products, if you were measuring how many times your company was mentioned in social media, you could actually keep a real-time counter in here.
Yeah, I think that would be good. There's an interesting comment from Robin Witcher, who works in a college over your side of the pond, just appeared. She says,
Oh, I don't see any. Did you see it in the chat room? Where did you see it?
Yeah, in the chat.
I
It says, I'd like to roll up our college's Twitter, athletics, Twitter and news feeds onto one page. To be honest, Robin, I can't see why you can't. I think that's doable, as you can see.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's actually quite easy to set up a unique sort of widget here. All you have to do, I'll show you the EUSP one. And again, I'm in the Twitter UI here, so I can change the search query. I can change the look and feel a little bit, and I get a little bit of a preview here. Changes color and stuff. You can see, and if I save it and refresh the page without
that looks
I see the difference.
Looks like new tweet deck. Get rid of that. Dark.
Dave Coleman, it looks like you can see the chat room and I can't. So if there's anything coming through, please help us out.
Just that one so far.
Okay.
That's all. But interestingly, Mark Anderson,
Yes.
it had there in the Twitter bit where you went. Sorry, if you go back there again. It's got safe mode, exclude sensitive content. I wonder how the hell they do that.
Yeah, this is an interesting thing that I read about, but I didn't quite understand. It actually seems to think that that Twitter seems to be telling me that it can figure out whether stuff should, be considered sensitive by a couple of rules here.
Wow. Okay.
And I didn't fully figure it out.
Well,
but, you also have an opt-out of tailoring Twitter, which is another thing about tailored suggestions. And I don't know that I've ever seen those in my tweets.
No, well, I mean, there's all new stuff all the time. I learned this week from a guy about MT. I mean, go figure. I don't know what that was.
You can see here that we're seeing a more live view of that tweet stream. One of the things I didn't figure out is how the polling for these things work. It does refresh, but it doesn't refresh very quickly. So I think if you wanted to do this for real, you'd probably want to build a calls right against the Twitter API, which is not all that hard to do either.
And while they allow you to do that.
Yeah, they do actually.
Yeah, but my personal opinion is I just think they'll screw it down and try and get everyone on the web page. So,
well, that's true too.
And then pile it with adverts.
Yeah, it depends on what the what the goal of the dashboard is. If
sure.
Up-to-date tweets is really important, then you probably want to do that.
All right.
That's good.
Mark, I'm gonna round it out here. I think we demoed this pretty well. People that are interested in it, you've got a site that has it. Where's the site located? You want to show people here?
Right.
You got it pulled up?
Sorry, just to butt in, guys, but Bjorn just tweeted a thing. I'd love to see stats on mentions over time. For example, company name mentioned X times in previous Y days.
Yeah,
Yep.
I agree. I think that'd be a very good usage.
Yep. I mean, there are all kinds of very sophisticated tools that analyze Twitter streams. I use Hootsuite, which does all kinds of interesting media management kind of stuff. So if you had specialized needs like that, you might go to a specialized tool. On the other hand, if you wanted to do what we've done, which is just try to combine a bunch of different social interaction types into one page, you might want to build something like this. It's you're again going to want to think about what's the right tool for the job. You might use one of those other services and then show the results from that service here by either ajaxing that content in from their site or using their API or whatever. This stuff is becoming more and more open every day, so we can start to put more and more interesting things on the page on these dashboards and things.
Speaking of that, Mark, Liz in Twitter says she'd like to see a full spectrum multimedia page, YouTube channel, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. That's not hard to do with this, right?
Yeah, Mark and I went through a bunch of iterations on this thing, just trying to figure out what would get the points across the best. We had Facebook on here for a while. We played around with trying to get, I think it was Ustream we were fiddling with, right, Mark?
Yep.
Trying to show a Ustream video feed. We certainly could do YouTube. I don't think we tried that, but they have embed codes too. So, it was tempting just to throw a whole bunch of crap on the screen, and what we wanted to do was make sure that we didn't just put such a mess up there that nobody could even figure out what.
Well, what would be fun is if you did put a bunch of crap on the screen.
I could put lots of crap on this.
But then the app itself recognizes what you're using most, and it starts to float to the top. So if you've got like 10 different features and you're clicking YouTube all the time, it should float to the top left-hand corner automatically when you open the page.
Right.
The other thing to check out as well is with 2013 stroke 365, the embed stuff in that. So far I haven't found an embed code that hasn't worked. So for instance, I've tried YouTube, I've tried Issue, I've tried SlideShare, Show Me, everything works. So far it's great. If you can get an embed code, you're good to go.
All right.
No, I haven't actually had much trouble in 2010 doing that stuff either.
Yeah, but this is out of the box, so.
Yeah, out of the box you can just drop it in.
Or out of the cloud.
Yes, I mean you might have to drop it into a list or something in this case, but it's still not that bad to do.
Sure.
I would love to when the next time I have a bunch of time and feel like fiddling with this some more, I will probably get this to be all list driven, so that I as a user dragging this from left to right writes that change into a list, and then the next time I come back here it remembers me.
That'd be good.
And each person would have a different view of the page.
Now you got to do is get the time to do it. That's the tricky bit.
Yeah, well, I just.
Hey, what are weekends
it's on my
for?
list.
What are weekends for?
All right, kid.
Mark, thank you so much. Dave, thank you, and MetaViz Technologies for loaning us the platform to do this today. We are recording this, so those listening, please tell your friends. Dave, what do we anticipate? Will this be available tomorrow?
Oh goodness me, no. I'll get the video to you, the MP4 version to you after I've had my dinner. So, about another hour or so.
That sounds good. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Hope that was useful. Please go to Mark's site. Mark, where is your site so that they can see the code itself for you?
Yep. So we've moved a copy of this out onto Nothing But Share.
That will well.
Yeah.
Nothing but
site /EUSP /Mark Anderson.
Wow. You really hit the big time now.
Yeah.
End
I'll
user
tell you
SharePoint
what else.
I'm looking for your site,
is,
Mark, where you've got the code samples and everything.
Yep. So this is my blog post on my blog, simpmark.com, and I will make sure I add the link to that site so that nobody has to remember what it is. And in this post, I try to explain a little bit about what I did, and there's a lot of the code. In the site over here, though, the site that's out on end user SharePoint, or Nothing But SharePoint, whatever we're calling it today, there's a document library called Demo Files, which actually has a bunch of the widgets and such in there. The script is there, the CSS is there, so if you want to grab into that without having to copy it out of my blog post, it's there.
All right. Thank you both very much. Mark, great work. Great work.
Okay. I'll
Thank you. It was fun. Let's do it again sometime.
It's always fun with us old guys. It's great.
Speak for yourself, Dave.
Yeah, right.
I mean the old part.
Yeah. Okay, guys. I'll stop recording.
All right, good. Thank you a lot.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.